What's up everyone, this is my final video of 2023 to celebrate the last OTA of the year in Marvel Snap. It has been a crazy year full of tournaments and content and more, but today I'm here to share some of the biggest changes that are coming to the game, the buffs, the nerfs, and more. There are 9 cards right now that have been reworked today, some of which you'd expect, some of you wouldn't expect, I know I didn't. So let's get to our first card here in the buffs. First up, we have Punisher. That's going from a 2 power to 3 power. This card mainly is in the hands of newer players, those that are collecting their series 2 and 3 cards right now, and honestly doesn't really move the needle that much, but it's still good to get an additional power nudge. Could I see a Silver Surfer edition here, anybody? No, don't do that actually, that's copium, don't do it. Still good buff, but probably not for Silver Surfer. Speaking of moving the needle a tad, we have Martyr here, going from 4 power to 5 power. In the words of Second Dinner, actually, they said this is a quick buff, and I'd agree with that. It does get a quick little nudge. What's funny is that this card is honestly really just kind of used as a priority play. If you're needing to gain priority early on in the game, this card does that. You'd also be able to utilize it in maybe a Professor X deck as long as you're able to play it in that same lane. Otherwise, this card right now, I still wouldn't buy it right now. Maybe not. It's not on the top of the list. Gladiator. So we've got a 1 power increase here as well. We go from 7 power to 8 power. It still remains a 3 cost, and it helps in the Silver Surfer archetype or in some of the control archetypes that have been more popular over the past couple of weeks, though the 1 additional power is helpful in making the Silver Surfer decks just a tad bit better. It also opens up the opportunity for Shang-Chi from the opponent towards the end of the game, so you do have to be careful of that. I recently picked up Gladiator in the past week with Blob, and if you are a fan of utilizing both of those two in combination, this deck right here is doing extremely well on the ladder. Just those two in general, and this is what I would recommend for those who do enjoy a good, solid control deck. Now we're getting into interesting territory, not just +1 power buffs, but like big buff territory. Maximus, 2 cost, 6 power. That's pretty big, and though we aren't going to be seeing it in the Silver Surfer archetype anymore, we've been seeing a resurgence of Maximus because of Blob getting introduced last week. Since it's not going to be found in that Silver Surfer shell anymore, you got any ideas where you would actually be seeing Maximus getting played? Well, if you guessed Ronan, you would actually be correct, and this is another big one, and a +2 power to boot, making it a 5/5. It's just amazing too, because what we're going to be having is Master Mold going down to Series 3 in the next week or so. So now you're going to be getting all of these cards put together into a deck like this. You'd be able to try out Dara's Mold'em and Fold'em, or any other archetypes. That does it for the buffs that we have, but now let's start looking at some of the cards that needed to be dialed back a bit. First up on the list is going to be Black Widow for the nerfs. Black Widow is now a 3 cost, 3 power card, and with how powerful Bounce has been lately, this was one of the more popular cards inside of that shell, and having to deal with Widow's Bites twice in a game preventing draw is very, very hindering. It's not very fun. So Second Dinner decided to dial it back, making it a little bit more expensive to play. Would I still play it inside of an Annihilus deck? Definitely. It's just not going to be as prevalent or as easily played in some of these decks. Next up we have Viper. It's going from a 2 cost to a 3 cost with 3 power, now 4 power. And this is going to be tough for a lot of folks because a lot of people just bought Havoc, and Havoc not going to be a play you can do with Viper anymore on turn 4. You will not be able to play your Havoc and then shoot it over to your opponent and then Shang-Chi it late on in the game. That is not feasible anymore. Also, based on data and what some of the top professional players have been saying, that play is just not optimal. Also, as an air of caution to the upcoming card Celine, being introduced, the introduction of Annihilus weeks ago. This change was meant to prevent the meta from being like way too unfun, so Second Dinner took precautions to that, and I would say that's pretty fair. I would still like to be able to play my Viper and my Annihilus deck, and I'll be able to do that. You know, you could shoot your hood over, but the cheesy plays with Havoc, stuff like that, it's just not going to work anymore. Getting into the bigger nerfs now, we have Werewolf by Night, a 3 cost, now 4 cost, 3 power, now 4 power. You will have to play Werewolf later on in the game, reducing one of those bounces and power jumps. Devs in the game wanted to change this after seeing people remove other pinnacle cards in certain archetypes. I think their exact words here that I have quoted is, when a card's strength is enough to unseat foundational cards in other archetypes, that's usually a bit much. And they're referring to, you know, substituting Wolf In for Brood for Silver Surfer decks. That's pretty big. So, because of that, you would also see a big change to the Loki by Night deck, which I would argue is probably the best deck in the game. Competitive deck that you would use in tournaments that some top players like Lambie would be playing. We ready for the final nerf? This one, I think everybody was expecting in some way, but how was it going to be executed? Well, here it is. Professor X going from 3 power down to 1 power, and I think that is much needed, especially with how popular Blob has been and the archetype. It hasn't been very fun playing against all of the Professor X's on ladder in Conquest. It has just completely dominated the meta in every single way, but because of this, now you have the opportunity to spread out more power into locations, making it more difficult for the Professor X to take advantage of one of those locations. So I think this comes at a really good time. And that does it for our buffs and nerfs. What do you think of this OTA? Let me know in the comments. Right now, what I'm thinking of probably 2 big takeaways for this patch. One, the Viper nerf. I mean, the Havoc combo was pretty funny, and I am a troll, and I did enjoy doing that a little bit. Definitely did it to a couple people on ladder, and it was executed pretty well. But for the most part, not really good timing for doing that when people were expecting it, so a bit of a letdown. Number 2, and I am not a Professor X enjoyer, but I would say that it would probably be better to rework the actual ability of Professor X rather than drawing down the power all the way down to 1. Though I would probably expect in 2024 a rework of the power. We don't get the luxury of having like the ability of the card changed in an OTA. Getting to make videos like this has been a pleasure, and I can't believe I started so late in 2023 doing it, but it's been really enjoyable. I hope you've enjoyed it. You can catch me on Twitch doing some of the Twitch drops that just got announced today. A lot of the streamers right now are actually doing the campaign, so highly recommend you go over there, check a couple people out. I will be streaming as well eventually here once this video's out. But I hope you all enjoyed it. Happy holidays to you, and I'll see you soon.